Hello, I'm Matt Deegan. I'm the creative director of Folder Media, and I also run a children's radio station called Fun Kids. My day job really is all about audio. We think about the radio stations, we work with customers across Europe, we're involved in podcasts, and so what goes into people's ears is very important to what we do. Now, one of the ways that people consume audio hugely in the UK is obviously in the car. And we thought it'd be useful to speak to somebody who knows about the future of audio in the car and is doing interesting things there. So please welcome Joe D'Angelo, who's Senior Vice President of Radio at Xperi. Hi.
Hey, Matt, how are you? It's good to see you again.
I'm good, thanks. So Xperi is sort of an interesting company. There's sort of lots going on, especially obviously around in-car. Probably people who are at home and don't quite know what you do, it might be useful to give a little update.
Yeah, definitely. Xperi is probably a new name for a lot of people at the session today, but we're actually a global company that's a roll-up of a number of technologies. And our real focus is to deliver an immersive entertainment experience around both audio and video with a real focus on three platforms: home, mobile, and car, not surprisingly. Our technology portfolio includes brands like DTS. Many of you may know DTS audio from film and TV and Blu-ray, DVD, etc. We have the HD radio system, which is the broadcast digital radio standard here in the US. A real neat new technology called IMAX Enhanced, which brings the visual and audio benefits of IMAX into the home. And most recently, we just completed a merger with TiVo. So all of the great metadata and personalization and recommendation capabilities that I'm sure many of you are familiar with TiVo are now all part of the Xperi family. So it's really a very broad technology company.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like for a lot of media companies, output was always the most important thing, be that radio or telly, the programs that come out the speakers or come out the TV. But in a digital world, the metadata side and things that describe that information becomes more and more important, don't they? I mean, across all of those things that you've just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing such a proliferation of content right now. You just look at all the myriad of video platforms that are out there, the increases in audio programming enabled through DAB, and it really makes discovery a real challenge. I mean, how are you going to find what you want to watch, what you want to listen to without descriptive metadata? It's, you can't just sit there, flick the channels, increment up, frequency by frequency, and sit around and listen or watch and then decide this is what you want. So metadata is absolutely critical for discovery and then even rich engagement with the whether it's audio or video programming.
I mean, here in the UK, the radio market's quite an interesting sort of multi-platform market, and probably more so than a lot of the world. FM and DAB has around the same audience share, around 40%. And then there's people obviously listening on streaming platforms and on digital TV. And also there's obviously been an explosion of channels. When I look at my bedside digital radio, there's about 100 channels now when I hit that retune button. So there's a huge amount. And when we hop in our car, we've got obviously national channels and local channels too. It's definitely different from having a couple of presets and those things never changing. I think probably if you've bought a car, even in the last 10 years, you know that dashboard is maybe pretty different to what went before. I mean, if you're buying a new car, what are you getting in that dashboard, and what are those car companies thinking about?
Yeah, you're getting pretty much everything. Pretty much every audio platform that you would want to listen to in the vehicle is available either natively integrated into the dash or through one of the mirroring technologies like CarPlay and Android for Auto.
So that's where you plug in your phone into the dashboard.
Yeah. I mean, my own personal experience, I have a relatively recent Volkswagen Atlas. And I think there's arguably 15 different audio sources. I have satellite radio here, HD radio, CarPlay, Bluetooth audio. I can even bring in a USB stick if I want. So there's so much choice and so much competition for ear share in the dash. Broadcasters really need to be everywhere, take advantage of all those platforms, but really ensure that they're enhancing and taking advantage of all the capabilities, in Europe that DAB offers, whether it's slideshow, et cetera. It's really a challenging environment.
So obviously, Xperi, you do software and services that kind of go into a lot of those dashboards and these new digital dashboards. What other car companies, how do they think about audio or even media more generally?
Yeah, well, we are definitely committed to an enhanced broadcast radio experience in the dash. That's kind of the fundamental principle of DTS AutoStage, our global hybrid radio platform. We really want to take advantage of IP connectivity that's coming into cars to drive broadcast radio discovery, engagement, and listening. And, car companies are challenged right now because there's so much competition for their investment dollars, whether it's around, drivetrains, now the electrification of vehicles, the operation of vehicles with the driver assistance systems, that, media and entertainment is not the primary focus of their investment dollars. And so we're trying as an industry to drive innovation in the car, it's very important that we make it as simple, as consistent, as reliable as possible, or the car companies are really going to focus on some of those other turnkey platforms like Spotify, like Android Automotive, where the innovation is being done for them and really handed to them more or less on a silver platter.
So I guess there's a couple of options there, isn't there, if you're new to the space? So in the old days, I guess car manufacturers would have built everything in their car sort of end to end. And then gradually they'll, more modern firms, they'll use lots of different suppliers for things. And now we get into choosing what's in front of consumers for in-car entertainment. They've got a couple of options, haven't they? They can build stuff themselves, or they can kind of buy in other people's platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big, we've seen a couple cycles here. If you remember back probably 10 years ago when you had the bespoke platforms like the Intune system with Toyota, and then that was gradually replaced over time with CarPlay, Android for Auto, the mirroring technologies. We see car companies going back to kind of a combination, a bespoke platform, but they're also taking ingredient services from the likes of Spotify and Apple Music, for example. And that's really what we're offering. We're offering radio, a competitive response to big tech in those platforms where car companies are looking for innovation, but they don't want to build the entire solution themselves.
Because if I'm a radio station, I used to be very lucky in that there wasn't really anything else you could do in the car. And I think a lot of people have seen that free space as a massive market opportunity, and particularly sort of Spotify or Apple Music. They really want to own the in-car experience, don't they, if they can?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if you look at the big three like Apple, Amazon, and YouTube, they're offering audio services for very different reasons, and none of them really complement what broadcasters are trying to do, which is serve a local market, serve a local audience, and serve local advertisers. So it's really changing the landscape and the economics around audio delivery, and that's what broadcasters are up against, a very aggressive set of very large, well-funded partners.
And I guess they're international as well. So, the car guy can bring up Ford's in-car entertainment guy, or Spotify's in-car guy can call Ford's in-car guy, and they can have a conversation. That's more difficult to do with 20,000 radio stations all around the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if you're the BBC or what you'd see as a large broadcaster.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Radio's biggest strength is its localism and its diversity. But in the case of trying to offer a global, consistent user experience, it's one of the biggest challenges. And it's one that we took on probably 2.5 years ago, where we have really tried to and have been very successful in aggregating content from about 100,000 radio stations around the world, harmonizing all of their descriptive and dynamic information into a single interface, a single API that car companies can take advantage of. It hasn't been easy, but we think it's a very valuable exercise and speaks to our commitment to broadcast radio.
So if I'm a radio station, so my radio station, my kids' channel, Fun Kids, what should I be thinking about with regards to cars? And I guess what should I be making or providing to help people find my stuff?
Yeah, so I think our advice as a technology company to broadcasters is really, you need to be everywhere. You need to be on all the most modern digital broadcast platforms. You obviously, an app strategy for mobile is critical, smart speakers, online listening, really take advantage of all of those platforms and all of the underlying capabilities that they offer, because they're not all equal. And I think metadata, we'll come back to that topic, is probably the most critical piece of the entire solution. Your metadata will help you stand out from the crowd, will help your audience find you, discover your content, and then once they find it, really stay engaged with you. So I encourage all broadcasters to take metadata very seriously. When they're doing that, please ensure that you're following all copyright requirements and obligations, because there has been a history in the industry of playing a little fast and loose with album art specifically. We're seeing the European Copyright Directive come down pretty hard on misuse of copyright, so that is absolutely critical. But I think if you focus on that and embrace all these digital platforms, you're going to have a very, very robust future. You'll really engage your listeners and be able to deliver more value to advertisers.
Because just pick on the advertiser point. Obviously, in television, there's a lot about kind of addressable audiences and addressable advertising. And whilst there's some of that in radio with dynamic ad insertion and things like that, in-car potentially provides another great opportunity for it too.
Yeah, so we're seeing the evolution of these hybrid radio platforms in vehicle, and in the first case, it's fairly basic. We're just using the IP channel to deliver enhanced metadata and now playing information. But even that basic functionality allows us to better understand the audience. And I think it's the first step towards the targetability, the addressability of enhanced advertising. So I think we're definitely going to see a roadmap and an evolution around that. We're dealing with obviously the privacy issues and everything around that, but it's an incredible opportunity for broadcasters and advertisers alike.
And I guess for radio stations, if there are more people consuming their content through these devices, there's new opportunities that they can offer advertisers.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at really enhancing the radio experience to keep listeners within the radio environment as much as possible. So we're doing things like cross-station recommendations, as people are either driving out of markets or even within a market, and they're looking for something else. We want to keep them within radio. And one of the ways we do that is with rich visuals and dynamic text. Those same capabilities can be applied to advertising content. So while you're not only getting the audio ad, that audio ad is being reinforced with text and visual information, perhaps a call to action, et cetera. And Nielsen did a study in the US not too long ago that shows about a 1,200% lift in retention when you add those visuals. So it's a great capability.
That's great. I mean, there's so many opportunities, isn't there? And these things are changing so fast. It's sometimes easy to forget that car manufacturers, it takes them actually a couple of years sometimes to get this into the suite of products. But once it's in, I mean, it's really in for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. And so, broadcasters, we need you to act now. The DTS Auto Stage platform is open and available. to all broadcasters free of charge. We've recently launched at the end of last year with Daimler. We're seeing consistent rollouts, but you're absolutely right. That Daimler development was in the works for years. We have other platforms in development now that will come to market later this year, but you're right, the design cycles can take 3 to 5 years in some cases. So the time to act is now.
Joe D'Angelo, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Enjoy the rest of the show.